This workshop discusses 10 good ideas for congregations to be welcoming of the newcomers who are searching for a spiritual home, which will help them along the path to membership. Our leader is Marie Merton, the Membership Director at Fox Valley UU Fellowship, Appleton, Wisconsin. This was recorded on August 12, 2010, and lasts approximately 45 minutes.
I'm so glad to be able to present tonight with you. I've been the membership coordinator at the Fox Valley UU Fellowship for 5 years now. It started as a part-time position and then quickly became full-time. I've been able to learn from a lot of other staff and lay leaders from other congregations, so I'm always very happy to share what I've learned. And I found that pretty much everyone's very willing to share resources and ideas that have worked for them in the past. So again, I'm glad to be here with you. So I'm going to be talking about 10 good ideas for getting ready for newcomers. And the first one here, it talks about reviewing all of your written materials, both electronic, your brochures, and your newsletters. The slide that Dory has up here is a good example of what not to do visually for announcements. As you can see, there's lots of different fonts, and some of which are very, very hard to read. And so when you're looking at your materials, you can look both for the visual impact of them as well as the actual text of them. So visually, I found that it's much better to keep things clean, to keep it visually appealing. And if you're not sure how you want to change things, you may know what you don't want, but you're not sure what you do want, I recommend going to other congregations' websites and looking at their newsletters, looking at the information that they have out there. Just about every UU congregation website that I've been to has a lot of that material right on there so that you can see. And if there's other UU congregations that you would like their information for, give them a call, send them an email. They could probably send you whatever resources you're looking for. Beyond the look, you also want to pay close attention to the text that's on there. Starting with your website, I really feel that the website is the most important informational vehicle you can have for your newcomers. Most visitors you get will have checked you out via your website, and they'll come if it seems like a place that they're looking for. And when they come, they'll be comparing what you offer to what you say you offer on your website. So please do evaluate what message you are sending through your website. Also, it seems obvious, but make sure everything is accurate. I do a full overhaul every year where I look at every page of our website for accuracy, and I'm always amazed at the amount of information that gets outdated quickly that you don't necessarily think to find the right page on the website to update the information. I also make smaller changes as the program year changes from summer program and back again. But that's a really important thing for someone to really look at every page of your website to make sure it's accurate. You also on a regular basis want to refresh your website so it doesn't have a stagnant look. You can check out other UU sites to get ideas. When I was overhauling our website a few years ago, I checked out dozens of other UU sites and picked out the elements that I really liked. And I had a web team that helped get the look of the site together, but I know that there's a lot of really easy ways to build websites, and then I was the one that was able to upload all of the text to it. Beyond the website, it's also important to look at your brochures and newsletters and basically any piece of paper that you hand to newcomers. How do they read from a newcomer perspective? Something to look for is insider language or language a newcomer wouldn't understand. This includes using acronyms without explaining what they are, like RE, UUA, COA, OWLs. We have a lot of them. And also saying things like, as you know, in an article. Newcomers don't know, so that makes them feel like they're on the outside or missing out on something. They also don't know who Bob is, so make sure to use first and last names when putting contact information in your articles. And then review again, but this time invite someone brand new to look through your website brochures and all of those materials. They can look at those pieces as individual pieces, but then also as a whole. As much as we try, over time it's really hard to evaluate information from a newcomer's perspective, so having a brand new person do it, they'll be able to tell you what's missing. They'll find the insider language if you're using it. When we overhauled our website, I asked every newcomer who told me they had seen it before coming what they thought of it. And I was able to get a lot of suggestions for information that I was missing on the site from them. These suggestions ranged from adding a history of the fellowship to a page just explaining some ways that they can make friends with others in the congregation. And I ask someone to do this review about once a year. I never want our material to feel outdated, and I also know that we can always do things better. So getting more feedback really helps make sure that we're always trying to improve those materials that we have. Training your welcomers or greeters, we use the term welcomers in our congregation. We know that people come to our congregations for a variety of reasons, but often it is an anxious time for them. They're often going through some sort of a transition, whether it be a divorce, they've moved to the area, are having a child or had a child, left their childhood religion, and many haven't been in a church in many years or have never been in a church at all. All of these things make for an anxious person, whether it's a good change or not. Change is still hard on people. And so when they walk in the door after probably sitting on the parking lot for a few minutes trying to figure out whether or not they want to come in, we really want them to feel very welcome and secure. So we want to make sure that the people that approach them, our welcomers and our greeters, really have an understanding of who could be walking in our doors. So training welcomers is important because it is more than saying hello. It is recognizing who is a welcomer and how to approach them. Then it's knowing what to say, what to ask, and what to do with them. It's helping welcomers understand what to do when the newcomer obviously doesn't want to talk to anyone. Remember, when people are anxious, they may not be very chatty. And then also it's really important for welcomers to know how to welcome children. So I've done this sort of training as both a class and as one-on-one trainings with welcomers during their first scheduled time. I also make sure that there's an experienced welcomer if I have brand new ones. And I do have many examples of different welcomer trainings on the resources list at the end of this slideshow. It's helpful for congregations who don't have a paid membership professional on staff to have a lead welcomer each week. The lead welcomer can make sure everything that needs to happen gets done. This person can also be the person who collects questions that come up from newcomers and members and routes them to the appropriate people. And they can also follow up with visitors through a phone call or a letter. Creating a welcoming culture. For some congregations, this needs to be a whole cultural shift. Welcoming is, of course, the official job of your greeters, but it needs to extend out beyond that. So they can set the example so it spreads to others, but being intentional with the work of hospitality helps the whole congregation feel responsible. Church research tells us that newcomers greeted only by staff will return less than 20% of the time, whereas 85% of those greeted by a layperson will return. I liken this to the example of when a restaurant owner tells you the food is great, you may be skeptical, but when another customer raves, you're much more likely to try it and to return. Of course, this is not minimizing the importance of staff, as they are critical if you have them, and I really believe that if your congregation has a minister and or a director of religious education, they should definitely be present around services. But it also points to the need for members to also welcome those newcomers. Your leadership is an easy population to start with. First of all, make sure that leaders set an intention of not doing work during services. I believe that this takes away from everyone's experience. You can use some of the same materials that you use with your welcomers when leaders meet. And then it really helps them understand how to be welcoming. Unity Temple in Illinois has a great program called Warmth and Welcoming that they use for many different populations, including their lay leaders, their welcomers, etc. And that can be found through the resources link that you'll get at the end. Some congregations will have all of their committees take a month of coffee hour duty and welcoming. They are trained in how to be welcoming, and this is a really great way to get those different segments of the population thinking about this important work. We also want to make sure that newcomers know that they are important and the community is glad that they are here. It doesn't take much for the congregation to be welcoming. You can do this in a variety of ways, like having a special message for them at the beginning of the service, ensuring the minister and lay leaders who lead the service have the newcomer in mind when they're writing sermons. During the offering, you can invite first-time visitors to allow the basket to pass as they are our guests. Visitors are looking for friendliness and warmth above all else. And friendliness is measured in how many people reach out to say hello and not necessarily in the depth of the contact. So if the welcomers are doing their job of giving the information, answering questions, and being available after the service, and if you others say hello, a newcomer will feel very welcome. Something I have done in our congregation is to run newsletter articles helping members understand the importance of welcoming newcomers. And I have several sample newsletter articles that I have used from different congregations that helps long-term members understand how important welcoming newcomers is. So please understand that this shift can take a long time in congregations that are not as actively welcoming as you would like. So expect hesitation and even pushback, but taking those small steps can make a difference. Welcoming is for young people too. When a new family comes to us, often the parents are motivated because of their children. We want them to know their children are as welcome as they are, as the adults are. A welcomer should be able to bring the family to the appropriate classroom, introduce them to the teacher, and if you have one, the director of religious education. When parents leave their children with us, they want to know that their child will be comfortable and secure. The parent needs to know that what the procedures are for the class, what will happen, who the teachers are, what happens if their child needs them during the service. And the child should be asked to wear a namesake so that the teacher and other children can use their name as much as possible. So you can certainly train your RE teachers and nursery care providers to know how to welcome new children and their parents, so that teachers know how to engage new children by bringing them into the circle, sitting near them if they are shy, finding other children who they can connect with during activities. When a parent picks up their child, the teacher can give a quick report on how the class went and how the child did. And if the child or parents choose to stay together in the service, having activity packets available for them helps them feel comfortable in the adult service. How do I become a member? And these two photos are actually from our fellowship. So you can relook at your expectations and the process of membership. What are people's experiences when they join? Who attends the meetings? You can ask for feedback from some of the last new members who joined. When I started in this position, people could join anytime they wanted. Often someone would tell me they wanted to join after a service, so we would take 5 or 10 minutes and make it official. They were often rushed if they had to get their kids, and the whole experience just didn't feel as important as it should have. And since then, we've changed the process to make it more formal. Dottie Matthews, our associate minister, and I meet with each new member individually. We set aside one Saturday morning a month to meet with prospective new members. Dottie talks to them about the spiritual nature of joining a congregation, and I talk to them about the pledging and the involvement piece. This change has been really positive for us and the new members. We feel like we get to know them, and it makes the act of joining the fellowship more important, and it gives us opportunities to engage the new members right away. I have learned that having higher expectations for new members is important. The more we expect from them, the more they expect from themselves and from us. Many congregations require an orientation class. We require each new member fills out a pledge card and offers a financial waiver to those who requested one. People who truly want to be part of this congregation will do these things, and they will get those added benefits then by participating. And so in these conversations with new members, you can find out what their experiences so far have been, what they're looking for in a spiritual home, what they're looking forward to getting involved in, and then making that connection right away. And then after they join, you can keep them engaged by sending a letter of welcome, having a new member celebration of some sort. Some congregations have a mentoring program, and others do regular anniversary calls. There are certainly many examples of helping new members become engaged. I'm talking about having an orientation class for newcomers. I really feel that it's very important to have one or more orientation classes for newcomers. This allows them to get to know Unitarian Universalism, your congregation, and also gives them an opportunity to meet other newcomers. And also to share of themselves. You know, many people are coming to our congregations who are very isolated, and certainly they don't have a lot of opportunities to really share their own story. So in our orientation class, we have quite a long segment where they each share their own spiritual journeys. And to see the amount of information that they will share with each other, with these people that they've hardly met, really shows just how much they really crave being able to share of themselves and to be able to continue on that journey with this group of people. We've also had often a small group come out of those orientation classes where the group really gets to know each other well. They blend and meld, and they want to continue to meet. So we've had a covenant group starting out of our 101 class, a more informal social group that's come out of one of our orientation classes. Just a really great way for newcomers to get to know each other and to start making those connections and those friendships. There's many samples available in a variety of times, from 1-hour classes, which can often be after services, to several week classes. And if your congregation has a minister, it is ideal to have him or her participate in all or a portion of the class, and this allows newcomers to get to know them in a different setting than in the pulpit. Again, I have a compilation of many samples available on my resources page, and what I've done each time I've wanted to kind of relook at our orientation class, which I typically do once a year. I don't always change it very much, but over the years I've definitely changed different portions of it. And it's from getting ideas from other congregations' orientation classes and picking and choosing the different pieces that I think will fit best here. I've also found that having different time amounts, what I mean is having an hour class available on a little more regular basis and then a longer one also available, gets different people, but also helps them depending on where they are on their path within the congregation. Brand new people are much more likely to attend a 1-hour class, and then people who are a little bit more established are much more willing to take a longer class. If you don't have a minister, the membership committee or even a small team of selected people can put these on. I have found participating in these classes to be incredibly rewarding. I'm able to get to know the newcomers better. I get to hear their stories. And I also love being able to share about Unitarian Universalism and the fellowship. Inviting mystery visitors. So there is a mystery visitor program that a lot of churches use. This is a program where you have people who have never been to your congregation intentionally come only to evaluate their experience. This is truly the sole purpose of their visit. And then afterwards, they can fill out a form with questions that you put together, so you can get that feedback. I have used this program in the past. This program is really helpful to find out how newcomers are truly treated. And I found having someone intentionally evaluating different areas gave me lots of ideas on what we were missing or could do better. And I used a form from Horizon UU and have a sample of that on my resources page. Certainly I get feedback from real newcomers, people who are truly coming because they want to come and are interested in getting to know our fellowship. But then sometimes I think people try to be nice or they disappear. We don't necessarily know why they don't come back. So having a mystery visitor program helps you get that feedback, and that person is instructed to not just be nice. They will give you every piece of information that you could ask for, good and bad. So this is a program that you could do once a year or even more often as you implement changes to see if those changes are working or not. You could ask a family member, a friend who does not attend your congregation, or even work with another church in your area and do an exchange. There are actually businesses you could hire to do this, but having a friend do it makes more sense to me. I was amazed when I had gotten an email from a business saying, we could have a mystery visitor come for this much money, which means to me that this is a program that really works, but I definitely would rather use someone that I know. Inviting newcomers to events and activities. There are usually many opportunities for newcomers to get involved. Finding short-term or one-time activities that they can try out. Examples would be helping with coffee hour, attending a social activity like a congregation dinner, attending an adult religious education class, a short-term covenant group, or a small group. And then most importantly, making sure that those newcomers know about those opportunities. Having ads in the newsletter, order of service, making sure welcomers are inviting them to participate in appropriate activities. I really want to make sure newcomers know that they should feel comfortable attending what's interesting to them. And also, if it's not the right fit, they shouldn't feel committed. I don't want anyone to feel stuck in a group or activity that they don't enjoy, but we do want them to feel welcome attending anything that they learn about. Nothing is for members only. At least most things are. I shouldn't say that. Just about nothing is for members only. And people coming to our congregations often don't know much about Unitarian Universalism, and so are often concerned about needing to be a member for things. And some have even hesitated here to ask for a name tag. We want to be very clear that they are welcome to do just about anything before joining. And actually, I believe trying out activities is one of the best ways for newcomers to experience what we are about. Services are, of course, very important, but the community is also developed through those social events, small groups, and other activities, which allow those newcomers to fully experience what being part of this community is all about.
In case anyone's wondering what the outdoor shot is, last year our district had a district-wide social action project called No More Turning Away, which was about being aware of homelessness, things that cause it, how to prevent it, how we can help people who are homeless. And part of the project was having church members, families, whole families, sleep outdoors in cardboard boxes overnight on a fall night. And so that's what is happening in that parking lot scene.
Using resources that are available to you. That's a page off of our website that I have compiled a ton of membership resources available to anyone who wants to use them. There are lots of resources available online through this page, but also the UUA has a ton of resources. Church blogs have great resources. And I also suggest to get on the appropriate UUA membership email list if you're not already. And because if you're looking for something specific, if you're looking to have a mentoring program, for example, if people are doing it, so you can send an email through that list, and if someone's doing it successfully, they can give you the appropriate materials. There's also archives of all the emails that have been sent through there. You can also explore the archives for more information. Also, go to other churches in your area, UU if available, but non-UU as well. From your point of view, what do they do well that you want to emulate? What are they lacking that you would like to avoid? And then also contacting other UU congregations. Every membership professional that I have met is more than willing to share resources and ideas with other congregations. Also staff and lay leaders of congregations. We all want to help each other do this work as best as we can. So, contacting us if you need help. And of course, district staff is also available, and they would in particular be able to connect you with specific congregations that would be most helpful for you in your own circumstances. I would love to have more of a conversation now with you all on what you found works, what you are struggling with, what can you share also?
So I would like to just lift up a couple of points that Marie made that I have found to be really important. One of them is when you were talking about training greeters and creating a welcoming congregation and not conducting business on Sunday mornings, that is something that I think really does put people off if they feel like, everybody's rushing around with clipboards and notes and things like that on a Sunday morning rather than greeting and welcoming visitors and visiting with each other and building relationships and connections. So I think that that's a really important point. And I know there's an outfit called churchgrowth.net. It's run by a man named Charles Arnn, who is a researcher who does a lot of research on churches, all different kinds of congregations, all denominations in terms of church growth. And he looks at those that are growing and what they're doing versus those that are, getting smaller. And he's drawn a lot of conclusions on this research. And one of the things he says is that the most important time to retain your visitors is, he says, the 7 minutes after service is over. It's, one thing to have friendly, smiling people greeting them at the door, but when service is over, it's even more important during that brief period of time to connect with them and make sure that they're feeling welcomed and not just standing all by themselves. And the personal invitation, too, inviting them to events, newsletter announcements, church Sunday morning announcements, those aren't really enough to get a newcomer likely to come to something. The personal invitation is going to get you a whole lot more results. So I would really like to emphasize that too.
This is Gladys from UUCW in Brookfield, Wisconsin. We're in the process of revamping our orientation, and we have a couple of different formats also. We do Saturdays for 3 hours, and then we do 3 consecutive weeknights in a row so that people who work have a chance to come on Saturdays, and other people can come during the week. What we're planning to do now, you talked about making the actual joining the church more meaningful. We took a hard look at people just coming up to the visitors table and saying they wanted to sign the book after coming to 1 or 2 services. We do require people to attend an orientation first, unless they're just transferring from another Unitarian church. But now we've decided that at the end of the orientation period, we're going to add on an extra gathering where people can sign the book, and we're making it more of a ceremony so that it is more meaningful. And then following that, we have new member Sundays where the people are welcomed in front of the whole congregation. We're trying to make the signing of the book a more meaningful experience so that it's not looked as something that you just do in an offhand way and it doesn't really mean that much. So that's what we're working on right now. And as far as making the new members feel welcome after the service, people are invited when they're visiting the church to come to the coffee hour, which we have after both of our services. We have clear coffee cups for new members so that people can spot them, and they can also spot them by their name tags that they have on. And we try to make a point, the members of the membership committee, to talk with all those people during the service and bring other people into the conversation so that new people do feel welcome and want to come back.
That's great.
Yeah, that sounds like you're making some great changes, especially with that joining. I know I felt the same way when I came, and it was just kind of this offhand thing, but putting that meaning around it. And I've heard a lot of congregations doing kind of the group ceremony of the joining, and that they've really had a lot of positive feedback from that. The coffee mug can be a fabulous thing, and it can also be a negative thing if there isn't that follow-through from the people in the congregation. I've heard it be said, the coffee mug of death, because you have the blue mug because you're a brand new person and no one looks at you because of that, because they don't know what to say. It has to be within the culture of the community to know, oh, that's definitely a person I need to go chat with, even if it's just a quick hello.
Yeah, we've discussed that too, and for a while we had a person from the membership committee standing with the minister and the board member after the service so that we could identify new members when they came through. We're not doing that now, but we are trying to make sure that somebody from the membership committee is circulating in the fellowship hall after the service during the coffee hour so that new people are not ignored and somebody is talking to them.
Great. It just makes them want to stay then.
Right.
Well, I guess I should speak up. Jim Carter from the Bloomington, Illinois. And we just put together a formal process to go through membership. Before it was somebody would sign the book someplace. And we now have made that a much more formal process. It had to go through the board. The ways to do this, it was a long, convoluted process. But we have a formal process, and actually meet with the minister is the ultimate signing ceremony, and other people can be there too. They should have gone through training unless they are transfers to another congregation. And we do have a couple courses, and that works well. So we've moved into that, and it's only been within the last 6 months or so we can't have much feedback on how exactly it works yet.
Well, you may find that people put more importance on their membership because of you put more importance on the actual act of it.
We think so, yes, right. Mm-hmm. And they do get recognized. Photographs get hung at the place. They get listed in the newsletter. Mm-hmm. They get a recognition at the church every 2 or 3 times a year in front of the congregation.
And then we also use Peter Morales' Community of Hospitality. I just love it. And he put that forth in Boston at GA years ago. And one of our members sat in that session, and she's had these wonderful notes carrying around, and she said, Judy, I just need to give these to you since you're helping with membership now. And this is when a person comes in and they're visitors and they have a stick-on name tag, and the congregation knows that they're visitors because of their name tag. And then after the service, anybody who has one of those stick-on name tags, the person that's sitting around them actually ushers them into the coffee hour and begins that conversation. And it's just a wonderful way to make sure, and that's very new too. And we're finding, that not all members like to really talk to new people. Mm-hmm. And so we're saying to ourselves, it's not just the membership committee that needs to be welcoming. We're not that big of a membership committee. It's the whole congregation that we want to become welcomers.
And that's not working very well, convincing them to be part of it.
It's hard.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be a whole shift for some, and especially because you're taking it to the next level of not just saying hello, but actually bringing them and knowing that they're kind of setting themselves up for a conversation. And so giving them talking points, giving them any sort of help with those is important. And one of the things that I really push into welcomers especially, but others as I'm able, is share your story of how you found the fellowship. And so they can learn from how much diversity there is within, but yet we all have come to the same place. And I think that some people, that's really an easy way to just open up a conversation, and then they can share how they found the fellowship and where they've come from. But yes, we're definitely not going to have everyone feel comfortable sharing or starting those conversations. But we don't want to force anyone either by any means.
Right.
Hi, this is Jamie at CUC. I've actually found that that's really true, but I've also found in terms of being available for the conversation that people are available to learn some skills about how to engage somebody new. And it's just a matter of having an open dialogue with, okay, you feel uncomfortable? Well, what can we do about that? Can we develop some tools or mechanisms for you to put into play where you can feel more comfortable and really open up a new relationship to often the congregation, but our newer folks as well. And that's been really interesting to do that. Just make it really practical and be honest about the discomfort that some people have. And some people really want to change that.
Yeah, good point.
Jim Carter again. I find it also a concern for those people who come back, haven't been around for a while and come back. Should they be treated like a visitor, or how do they even identify themselves? I mean, they in many ways deserve the same kind of respect and recognition as somebody coming in as a stranger. Mm-hmm. Somebody that hasn't been there, knocking their doors for 5 years, or somebody else that shows up. Nobody knows who's been here how long and who's an old member and who's new, and people don't want to talk to anybody because they figure they're too new. And you get this nice interplay in amongst the people.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because we definitely have that on a regular basis of someone who hasn't been around for years and now is back, and who knows if we'll see them the next week, or if their lives have changed enough to make it something that they want to be part of their lives now. Yeah. And I think, I typically do, without thinking about it, treat them more as a visitor than as a long-term person, because our community has changed since they've been there, and so it's definitely a new learning process for them as well as for us to get to know them again, or at all, if depending on the people. We've had pretty quick, fast growth, so our community is ever evolving, and so anyone coming in, even after a couple of years, they're going to see a lot of new faces. So I agree that most likely we would treat them more as a brand new person, and to help catch them up on what's changed.
I think part of it, too, is that welcoming culture that Marie was talking about is that, if all members, or at least all leadership folks who are around on a regular basis, kind of have a sense of personal responsibility for greeting folks, and that could include someone who hasn't been there for a while. It's basically so that there's a culture of, if I don't know someone, I'm going to go up and introduce myself to 3 new people this Sunday and learn a little bit about them, so that's kind of part of the general culture.
Yeah, that's the hard thing to develop, is that culture, I think.
Oh, it is. I joke that's why there are jobs for people like me, because that kind of culture is, it's a huge culture shift, which represents change, and a lot of people question whether, is growth a good thing, and all the different issues that go along with that. So.
Somebody told me the other day that I've changed since I've come on the membership committee because they can't talk to me anymore. I'm always busy talking to newcomers. They were disappointed they can't talk to me anymore.
Oh, that's funny. Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
I'm the president of the UU Fellowship in Jefferson City, Missouri, and one of the problems that I have with getting to spend enough time with newcomers when they, either at the beginning of the service or after the service, is that all of the members, or regular, we'll call them visitors that aren't members, seem to kind of monopolize my time with things that they want to talk about. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to tell them that there has to be another time when we can talk about some of this business so that I can spend more time with visitors. How do I go about that?
This is Dory. When I was a DRE, I had a similar sort of thing, and I basically had a policy that I would say to people, I don't conduct church business on Sunday mornings. If you have any kind of question for me, I would love to talk to you about it tomorrow. So you can, I left a notepad on my door and I said, write a note with your phone number on there and I'll call you, or send me an email or something. But Sunday morning is my time to be present for the families and the children. And I think you could do a similar sort of thing. Maybe you could even have some little cards you could run off on your computer that would say, I really am anxious to talk to you and hear about, your issue or question or whatever. Could you please call me or email me so that I can devote the time to you that I really want to tomorrow?
Thank you, because that's become a real problem. And I don't think it's just me. I think there are 2 or 3 other board members that are having a similar problem, and we're just getting so bombarded with other things that we're not able to socialize, and especially with the new visitors. We had a handful last week and a couple that got completely away from me because I got caught up in dealing with something else, and I really regretted that.
Yeah, I think even just a quick, I really want to talk to you about that. Can we talk tomorrow, please? I need to talk to these visitors this morning.
Okay, thank you.
But I empower you to do that.
This is Rose with DuPage UU Church. I'm going to emphasize what Dory said. People will get used to it. If you say very politely that there's another time that they can email you or call you, they'll start to realize that talking to visitors is the most important thing. Most people at our congregation know that that's what I need to be doing, except for perhaps, maybe somebody needs a key and I'm the only one that knows where it is. That's fine, but I tell them I can only do this very quickly. I have to get back to my visitors. The other thing is that if I'm chatting with a visitor and somebody comes up to me and they really do have an urgent need, or sometimes they're coming to say, here, I want you to talk to this visitor I've been chatting with, I have a lot of people I can go to and I can say, please come and talk to this visitor while I take care of this other thing. So what's been really successful at our church is the sort of the handing off of the visitor to somebody else. And I've grabbed all kinds of people who aren't on committees, people who, somebody that is friendly. I just go, hey, can you chat with this visitor because I have to go talk to that person over there. And that's actually what we tend to do with the visitors, is that we introduce them to other people so they're not just talking to me or the minister on Sunday.
I think that's a great idea and something that I forget because it's easy to, I should even say monopolize, because there are so many other people within our congregations that would be great people to connect them with. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about any one thing, but just a friendly face. And for them to have more conversations with several different people will just only make their experience better.
This is Gladys again from Brookfield UUCW. One way we have to engage new people after the service, we have done this on a kind of an irregular basis in the past, 3 or 4 times a year. But at our membership meeting last night, we decided we would start doing it once a month in the fall after both services. We have a little program called Getting to Know UU, and we publicize it. And then after the service, new people are invited to come to a separate room, have coffee, and speak with the minister if she's available, and also people from the membership committee. And it's just informal, just a chance to ask questions about the church and have people there that can answer those questions. Sometimes the new people kind of find a connection between themselves and another couple or another family. It kind of builds up a camaraderie to make them want to come back the next week.
When did you say you do this?
We do it after each of our services.
After the services.
So it would be like during the coffee hour, but we have it in a separate room, one of the little classrooms that we have available. And we just kind of sit around a table and chat and talk about where the people are from and how they found out about the church, and let them ask any questions that they'd like to ask. And then sometimes that leads to talking about orientations or other activities that they might want to take part in without being a member. And it's been helpful in the past, and that's why we decided to do it on a more regular basis starting this year.
This is Rose again. I've heard comments about name tags and recognizing new faces, and we've struggled with some of that as well. But my main approach with whether they're visitors or new members or returning people, is it's pretty much the way I would approach if I were having a party at my house. A lot of times I'm standing off on the side and just observing and making sure that no one's all by themselves unless I know that person and know they want to be alone. So if I see somebody who's not engaged, either I go engage with them or I find somebody, one of my friendly people, and say, please go talk to that person. After a while, it almost doesn't matter if you're there for your first time or your 10th time or you're on a committee. If you're all alone, I'm usually looking for people to engage with you.
Thank you for that, Rose. I've just uploaded another document that includes several different newsletter articles related to this that Marie has put together. There's a specific one on name tags that I really like, so I think you'll find this useful too.
I guess I want to ask a question about reaching out to people. I'm very good at building my little database, I guess. We have a guest register, and I try to get people to sign in and give an email address. I make notes on those and generally send emails to people and actually have some decent email exchanges with people every week. And just got one this week. The woman says, well, I am a Presbyterian. I came for a different reason this week. But I try to do that. I'm still not certain it gets me where we want to be. But I build a little database on people every week. I can look back for the last year and a half and see who I talked to and what I know about them, etc., and try to contact them.
And sharing that information with folks too. It'd be easy enough if maybe someone you happen to live in a particular neighborhood, you could email another church member in that neighborhood and say, you might want to know we've got this family that lives right down the block from you that started coming to church. In case you see them, you could introduce yourself or something like that. Help spread it around with other people.
Yeah, well, that spreading around has not been easy. I'm not quite certain how that works.
Gary, I'm with Third Unitarian Church. We've wrestled with that quite a bit. We have so many copies of members and prospective member data that sometimes it gets to be nightmarish trying to find a name or phone number that you wrote down on a scrap of paper or spread around among 3 committee members. We're actually trying to pull together a database of some sort of a formal computer tool that will help us know who's in a member and who's interested and often what the people's connection is to our community. It's kind of a tricky thing, but we think it'll be very helpful for all sorts of committees and not just the new member, but just conducting business in the church to have a better record of how to communicate with people.
Well, again, this is Jim Carter. We have too many databases in our church, but we just put out a new directory, and the directory came from the main database from the church. And I had the secretary give me a copy, and then I checked it against my database, and was able to add a number of people that I knew about that had never gotten in the formal database from the church, which I thought was important. Also, there were some things in the formal church database that were incorrect, and in some cases we had to change the status of some of those people. So it's good to have more than one database for different reasons. I don't consider my database to be at all a church-based. It's my database, and I hate to share it because I've got some personal things in there, that observations that I made. I'm not really ready to share it with everybody else, but it's very good for me.
This is Jeff from Emerson in St. Louis. One of the things that we did was start a Newcomers orientation, a 3-part class held. It goes about an hour after the service, and we announce those in our newsletters and that kind of thing. We do it 3 or 4 times a year. So we don't do it every Sunday. We're probably not big enough for that. And we call it Roots. And in the first session, we cover like the history of Unitarian Universalism, the second one, or the theology. And then the third one is all about our own church and some of the people and its own history and that kind of thing. We find that if we email some of the visitors and tell them about it and get them to sign up and offer childcare, that they stay for that. And these are actually visitors, not necessarily even members. And then once they've gone through that class, they really get it, and it's taught by the minister as well, they really get a better feel for the church, the denomination, etc., and the whole theological, spiritual perspectives. And then a lot of those people are ready to sign the book. It's really it's really an amazing conversion, opportunity kind of. And then we offer again, kind of semantically linked, we offer a covenant group called Wings. And you can join any time. So they go through Roots, and then if they want to kind of continue with the same people, a lot of those same people will join this covenant group called Wings and continue to get to know each other better. And so it's kind of a two-pronged thing that works. So far, it's been working pretty well for us.
That's great.
Yeah, I love the title of both of them, and I've also found that the power of the orientation class, especially a bit of a longer one like you're talking about, we do a 3-part one as well, or an all-day Saturday. It allows them to get a lot of different pieces of information that they probably wouldn't be able to get pretty much anywhere, because it's just, you can just kind of inform them about governance and history and all sorts of different things, and so it really gives them a great understanding of the congregation. And yes, most of the time they are then ready to join. It's a nice piece for that. And then the follow-up covenant group is great to really keep them engaged.
We have a 2-session called You Use Who We Are and What We Do, and I make a point of trying to take the people through all the structure. Behind the pulpit, back behind the organ, and down in the basement, and out in the kitchen, find out where all the cups are, and make sure they're comfortable in the whole space.
That's great.
Part of their church.
Plus, it's good to just get up and move around as opposed to sitting in a circle and talking the whole time.
Definitely, yes, right.
On behalf of the 3 districts that sponsor our webinars, I want to thank all of you for being part of this. This is great to have these discussions and great to talk about ways that we can grow Unitarian Universalism. And thank you so much to Marie for your putting this together and conducting these for us.
You're very welcome.
Thank you to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.